Hello and welcome. As we begin, I want to recognize that we gather tonight on the unceded land of the Lenape peoples. I'm Laura Crunk, faculty of the Creative Writing Program, and I'm delighted that we're here to celebrate new work from Cave Canem poets Geffrey Davis, Camonghne Felix, and Ladan Osman. 2019 is the new school's centennial. It's been a time for us to reflect collectively on who we have been, who we want to be, what matters most, how we want to do better. In light of the centennial, I'd say that this is what matters most. Relationships like the ones Cave Canem makes possible, and the work they do to nurture and sustain poets. All of us at the New School, and most especially all of us here who love poetry, are honored to host our friends at Cave Canem tonight. We recognize their important work bringing African American poetry into the rightful center of American literature. It's now my pleasure to turn the evening over to Natalie DeRosier, Arts Administrator Extraordinaire and Programs and Communications Assistant for Cave Canem.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Natalie DeRosier, and I am the Programs and Communications Assistant at Cave Canem Foundation. If you don't know, Cave Canem is an organization dedicated to cultivating the artistic and professional growth of Black poets. And today, particularly, we are celebrating Black Poetry Day. But every day at Cave Canem is a celebration for Black poetry. I want to invite you to stay in our community and to stay in the loop. Please sign up for our mailing list, visit our website, cavecanempoets.org, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Cave Canem Poets. We also have a fall flyer available that lists our whole season of programs, as well as a brochure if you're interested in more details. All of tonight's presenters have their most recent poetry collections available for purchase, so after the program, please find your way to the back table and indulge. Coming up next week on October 24th, please join us at Cave Canem's Brooklyn Loft in Dumbo as participants in Courtney Lamar Charleston's Fall Workshop gather for a culminating reading to showcase original poems that remix old and new texts. Afterward, on November 7th, we'll be at NYU Lillian Vernon House for a featured reading celebrating Titsi Jaji, winner of the 2018 Northwestern University Press Poetry Prize, Cave Canem's second book award. She will read alongside honorable mention Iran Methu and prize judge Matthew Shinoda. Both programs are free and open to the public. I'd just like to take this time to express so much warmth and gratitude to the New School's MFA Creative Writing Program, with special thanks to Lori Lynn Turner and her team. Thank you also to Laura Cronk for starting us off this evening. We thank our funders, the Lannan Foundation, the Whiting Foundation, Amazon Literary Partnerships, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts. Now, on behalf of Cave Canem's Board of Directors and the Interim Executive Director, Sandra Bowie, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce this evening's poets, who will read successively in this order. Geffrey Davis advises his students to, quote, think of poetry as something we practice beyond the page, which is a nuanced lesson for all. As readers, Davis's poetry often explores parenthood, childhood, memory, and identity, and certainly brings us to that place beyond, such as beyond the image or beyond the poem's subject matter, and deep into the way that poetry has the ability to shape our personhood. Davis is the author of 2 full poetry collections, most recently Night Angler, winner of the 2018 James Laughlin Award, and Revising the Storm, winner of the A. Poland Jr. Poetry Prize, and finalist of the Hurston Wright Legacy Award. He is also the author of the chapbook Begotten, co-authored with F. Douglas Brown. A native of the Pacific Northwest, Davis teaches for the University of Arkansas and for the Rayner Writing Workshop Low Residency MFA program. Camonghne Felix is a poet, political strategist, media junkie, and cultural worker. In an interview with Ladan Osman, she reveals poetry as a medium where all other art forms live and inquiries are deconstructed and reconstructed. It encompasses all. For Felix, her poetry is not only a container for the self, but has a stake in, quote, opening up a space where other people can continue to tell the truth. Felix's debut collection, Build Yourself a Boat, was a 2017 University of Wisconsin Press Biddington and Pollock Prize finalist, as well as a 2017 Fordham University Poets Out Loud semifinalist. The 2012 Pushcart Prize nominee and author of the chapbook Yoke, Felix was recently listed by Black Youth Project as a Black girl from the future you should know. Ladan Osman is a Somali-born artist whose work is a lyric and exegetic response to problems of race, gender, displacement, and colonialism. Osman embraces language or languages for their playful ability to teach beyond the functionality of communication, and she approaches poetry as, quote, a space of developing things philosophically and cinematically and with emotional tone. This is further demonstrated in an interview with Samsonia Way, where Osman suggests stories as language. Her most recent full-length collection, Exiles of Eden, is a work of poetry, photos, and experimental texts. Osman is also the author of The Kitchen Dweller's Testimony, winner of the Sillerman First Book Prize. Her writing has been translated into over 10 languages. Please join me in welcoming Geffrey Davis.
Thank y'all for being here. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. The Fidelity of Water. 1. Thousands of miles from home, you wake in a cheap hotel, with thirst so urgent you have no choice but to find the bathroom faucet with your mouth. Drink deep and understand the daily sigh made by bodies everywhere in this small town. Your new cushy job gives you bottled artesian water, which you consider as you taste the tap. Used to be, there was no good distance between this rivery tang and your fluid desires. Used to be, you'd shove aside a sweaty friend or jab a sibling for the first shot at placing lips to the only neighborhood source. Used to be no future in yearning. Feel how far you've come. 2. Today, a flood, and you see the risk in proximity, and life stretched by loving both a river and the rain. To watch what feeds you run dangerous, the biblical possibility of nurture rising into a final rage. Father rain, mother river. When it pours and you love when it pours, this river turns tannic with the turbulence you can recognize as home. Mother rain, father river. But what course isn't threatened when the right season licks its lips? What epic confluence can avoid the violence of giving and taking such shape? Mother, father, river, rain. If given the chance, you too will empty or swell, will lay claim to every unrooted thing in the name of a love you learned from flood. So My first book largely, among many things, chronicles my growing up in a household with an addict and ends with the birth of my son. And this book, I joke, sort of continues with my daddy issues as a father. Prayer with miscarriage. Dear boy, it is true. You took 2 tries to get here. For your mother and me to calyx together a body bold enough to carry the grace of you. Amen. So forgive us if we still bow inside the garden of your miscarried becoming. Grant us the ruined grounds of the first prayer, fiercer than our own cleaved breathing. How could we rush to rinse the word loss from our de-parented mouths? Remember this. We surrendered a new name for everything to the tender hour at our chest. Nothing blooms in the old field of maybe. No sound, flowers above please. But we endure what's not delivered from the impressions planted by our knees. Amen. So this is about being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and how that can sometimes make you question the meaning of your own hands, especially when you touch a new body. Survivor. My arms become 2 battered branches. The first time I reach toward the not yet rankled tenderness of my son's backside, bound to the pre-gnaw of a soiled diaper. Elle lies in our living room, postpartum and pitched inside the warm depth of her own recovery, body busy with soothing the glory of its new stitching. How many darknesses can turn a desire? How many good breaths to cast one wound from the sky? I open as if breaking until a sudden and enthusiastic and sunshiny geyser of urine from my son's penis startles me into the inane proverb of a laughter you never see coming. My hands still shake as I cinch the boy back into the thin cleanliness of another waiting. And yes, eventually I weep, but only after, and only outside, kneeling in the garden, well beyond the indivisible light of his future. Amen. Let me lighten the mood a little bit. How many of you, as parents, had a shared family bed and or slept in a shared family bed? Very few. It's getting rare. Well, we did it. And this proverb struck me from a fortune cookie. Can you call? Yeah, whatever. And it reads, "Those who say they sleep like a baby haven't got one." And this is kind of after like Mortal Kombat, and even playing that game. So this is called Pillow Combat with the Ultimate Sleep Fighter. Like in a video game, size does nothing to decide advantage. My demure son throws his demure weight around our family bed with resolve. And so I revolve inside discomfort's orbit, the planet of my sleepiness demoted, dwarfed, unstudied. Just as I reach my parental threshold of self-denial, just as I go to reinstate the matter of physics, energy, and force, he executes his special move, a combo of lovey words struck half-consciously across the dark. launching me into another vain cycle search for deep space shut-eye. Then his favorite toy sheep tucked between my folded arms, finish him. Then the fresh delicacy of his foot plopped upon my forehead, fatality. So I keep referring to this next one as a failing sonnet. Like sometimes a form will push something in your voice that you didn't think you could do. But the alarms kept going off the more I kept trying to force this sonnet series. And so the form sort of fails towards the end of the series. And this is Self-Portrait as a Dead Black Boy. 1. At 13, for a whole dark season, I was lethal with my pellet gun, murdering minor things that wandered into yard. Stalking the thin woods between our house and the highway, I picked off any bird, squirrel, rabbit, snake I could track. If I had 2 surprise seconds to explain the meaning of my hands, my instincts would have been to show you the weapon, to turn, hoping you could see gentleness poised behind the risk. So when Tamir Rice was shot X times, the toy pistol he carried couldn't have killed anything, big or small, even if he tried. But of course, as the story goes, that math's all wrong. 2. The law among my friends growing up, whosever car had the best sound, assuming they wasn't in trouble with their mama, drove. We rode the wheels off of TT's grandma's burgundy hoopty because of how the bass from its speakers trembled the tips of our hair and slapped our young bodies alive with a beat. So when Jordan Davis was shot X times, his legs and lungs and aorta pierced, a citizen who hated the rattle that black folks can make when they make it out the house. All around, America's trespass music fell. Even now, a different mood than mine hits my ears like rain. 3. I made it to 28 without owning a gun. And then my son burst onto the scene with thousands of miles between me and my tribe. So I learned it took just hours to return loaded and licensed to conceal a new danger. However, as soon as I felt that dark weight tucked against my torso, I realized the mistake. How few and unsafe the scenarios with me pointing this threat at another threat to survive. So now, on my knees, I'm preparing my heart to receive the next shots until a new divinity forbids one more black body be burned down according to an imagination that feeds its godliness with fear as seen through smoke. 4. In my 30s now, I buy sneakers that don't slip off my feet and feel older for the fit. On the way home from getting new pairs, we stop at a local farmer's market. And before exiting the vehicle, my boy and I change into our fresh kicks to feel godly while walking aisles of shining produce and handcrafted candles. So when Philando Castile was shot X times, a bullet searing through each year of his little girl's life in the back seat, I can't see his shoes in the documentary of this dying, but his body slides in and out of his safety belt as cop keeps weapon trained, a dark star stopping the open question of his window. 5. Sometimes a sleeplessness blesses you. In our shared family bed, I lie awake and hear the steady sonata of my wife and son's unconscious breath, turning our room into this shore with the midnight tidal music I wouldn't want to live without. So when Eric Garner was denied air for X seconds, the song and kin of his lungs flattened above the city's dirty sidewalk. Let us pray. 6. On occasion, I weep while watching the living brown X of my hand move across the page, swift and controlled, and sometimes remaining perfectly still. So I've written this poem out in longhand, in the best cursive I can manage, under light that bends into something soft enough to call healthy, none of which can keep me alive, no matter the grace. What make a man? What kind of wound make a man set his favorite rooster loose on a dying hen? What make the man snap the neck of that twice broken bird before his child's eyes? What make him see the bad idea after the fact? What open him like a storm? What make a man refuse to ask forgiveness? What make him offer the sudden softness of his voice instead? What get the man loaded? What make him choose to carry the small brightness of his child's body through the cold, sleeping city? No. What make a man decide to drift the roads anyway, so his child stay warm in the front seat? What make him park the car 2 blocks away? What arms filled and humming, "You are my sunshine," each dark step of the way home. The fidelity of music. It took time and travel to understand how the word Father sings to me in all languages. I want Daddy, but Father Abuser crosses the notes or keys I believe have barricaded the badness of that man. I hear Father Addict in the damn silence. Of course, my wholehearted hope had no chance, which I should have known once I learned guitar, the first instrument I tried to turn against him. Riffed, Father Liar, plucked, Father Thief. But for each piece of music I make into a door for Daddy's return, Father Deserter has orchestrated without warning another empty house of blues. Do you hear what it means for me to sing my son to sleep? The Night Angler. Dear boy, despite my return to running water and migratory moods, I've spent your life trying to break the feathered wheel of habit in my voice, to bring you evidence that I am done revising the seasons of storm, the God cycles of hurt breath. There I go again. Dear boy, I played you the voicemails my father left years ago, and understood then how my tongue will also travel, will mutate to find you, will draw whatever blood it takes to carry the word Father to your feet. Dear boy, I witnessed the moment your mother galvanized pain into a waterway you ran to get here. Forget that and forfeit the first promise pumped inside your chest. Cut that, and you might as well spill a sudden bucket of your own blood. Not a day has passed without the word woman holding you in its mouth, holy with movement. Dear boy, let the record show we invented one another. Family, a lighted story set against the shadow and dawn of distances. When I am gone, hold and heat the vastness of this creation. Don't stop speaking to me. Dear boy, on the second message, my father is saying, I just had to listen to your voice. Haven't heard you in a while. And the tribe in his throat trembles. How many gardens have I abandoned to this grief? For the son so loved the worry, he gave his only begotten reality and called the father back. Dear boy, in the beginning, Father was a fear I wanted to call love. For years I waded heart deep into that doubt. For a version of my name I could, with some forgiveness, cast before your image. Dear boy, here's my hand. Because your arrival has mended the grave current of time. In the beginning, I was talking to you. Thank you.
Geffrey's such a fantastic poet, such a serious poet, and also a kind person. I think we first met at a Cave Canem retreat. You really, are going through your paces in your work, and you put us through it too, but it's so gentle and kind, so thank you. Thank you to Cave Canem, of course. Thank you to the new school for hosting this reading and for everyone here. I'm going to read a poem from my first book because we're talking a lot, always, but especially in recent days, about a word. And it's a word that I have been called a lot, unfortunately, and one that sometimes you just kind of hear in the ether and hear in the echoes. And when I was in grad school in Austin, Texas, was definitely hearing it in what was said and not said to me, sometimes in workshop and in libraries and in the hallways, and kept having these disturbing nightmares. And so in a kind of fury, looked up the word to see that nigger could mean a black dog or black horse, or to wear away, especially fabric. And so started thinking about black dog and this kind of mythology that a dog that's completely black, like its eyes, its teeth, its tongue, is a jinn or a spirit. And then in the text, Distant Mirror, which looks at medieval histories, there's, the people are praying for protection from the plague, and a black dog appears with a sword in its paws and just breaks their religious implements and kind of breaks up the procession. And there were, I think, 300 some odd people that witnessed this, and it's just kind of casually recorded in history texts. And so that's a little bit of the background of this poem and what's missing from the notes of this book. How to make a shadow. Give her the spirit of a dog, a black dog with a sword in her paws. tether her. Put position at the bottom of a well filled with rats, rats with shining backs, their eyes shillings in the pocket of a man who sweats, sweats at the ass crack for position. Say to her bark, and she moans. Sudden chorus. The grass sits up to listen and asks, who is the weed that will not sever? Why won't the earth take water? Say bark, and she bites the space between ankle and sole. Say no to her. Be quiet. Like, may the seed stop up your throat, or hold the sword between your teeth, cut your tongue. Say, I nigger your heart. I eat your sleep. I give you the dream where you kneel and can't straighten. Get down from here into the well. Fight the rat or let him ride like a disaster on your shoulders. Say no. Say, don't open your mouth again, or try to open it with a bridle there. I ride you when you're so small, small beast. No. It will ring as omen, smiling dead squirrel at the curb, shining scythe under a bus bench, dead birds in a nest, dark feather under the doormat, black tongue, black roof of mouth, black paw pads, black nails, black snout, black spit. Say, die. And she comes like a djinn, silk shadow at your bedside. I nigger your dreams, bitter seed in the well of your throat. I will not scatter from your heart. I grow a tree there. I rest in its shadow. Southern trees, bearing strange fruit, blood on the leaves, and blood at the root. Black bodies swing in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. After the photograph of Emmett Till's open casket, 1955. I saw it with other little kids, and we said, oh, they made him into Play-Doh. So every time I saw yellow or mixed up colors Play-Doh, I'd think of them. And whenever they talk about him, I taste its salt sharp. I hold a knot of it in my mouth since Trayvon. After Janatha Carr say my name to her professor and asked terrible questions and whipped her hair back and forth. She whipped her hair back and forth. She whipped her hair back and forth. After young Darius left outside for 2 hours as they questioned his mother, the shooter composed himself, his house, and had his people over. I taste Play-Doh and dread seeing Emmett his whole and smiling body. I see shadows of birds, branches, clouds over the moon in a clear sky, or men, figures coming toward me with a light. They hold the light, or the light comes from their torsos. I go to sleep hunted, reaching for the K-bar as if in the woods, uncursing myself for taking apart the gun and spreading its pieces because I had a bad feeling. I got a bad feeling about those night terror figures ever since I started thinking about Emmett. I swore I'd never live in Money or Chicago because of the story about firefighters letting black houses burn. Now I wonder if I walk where he walked and where his people are, and if back then the boys of Bronzeville sometimes look like a biblical curse befell them because they smile so shy and don't always raise their eyes, weakening their chins by down-looking as if transfixed by their shadows. Black boys in my dreams, all tuned to the sun, waiting. I smell blood everywhere, though the street is clean. Their faces are pennies, smooth molded over their features. Their faces, Lincoln's face in profile. I ask them why. Why this? They say, we thought it would be best. It's true. They don't seem harmed. Sunlight on the pennies. I rise with rancid tongue, belly, think maybe it wouldn't be so bad if Emmett appeared in his white shirt and explained some things. Mainly, if it's as bad as I think it is, when they finally get their hands on you. So this is a poem I don't read often, but actually I think that this is a time for this tradition of, because of all the things that are being spoken over vulnerable people and all of the disasters that are being rained down on people in the name of Americans, I think this is a time to think about how for so many of us here and around the world, our leaders don't deserve us. And they don't deserve the privilege of their power, and they don't know, in fact, what to do with their power. And so this is, there's a Somali tradition of just from frustration and as a way of wordplay and joking of invoking things and using the world that's around you, but then it can be deadly serious. So it reminds us to be careful with words, and I would hope that the people who have taken on power, who have crowned themselves with power, will think about their words and how their words can, in fact, rain down upon them. Invocation. Splay yourself on the floor, mop spread before God, and may your submission remain false. Let intention and the ground you stand on crack and wander, become distant dimensions. You crawled on my chest, a little spider. You blended into bedding and startled me, chipped my heart. May your own chest break. I'll slap you into the floorboard, clean you up with too much soap. Yes, I'll stand at that corner, inhale and smile, remembering my frenzy. We're beyond known curses. You can still be ground meat in the street, turned out by wheels, coiled under some car, but I'd prefer you bleed on command. May your stomach fall out. Since you like showing off, drape it over your shoulder and wear it to the market. May your mouth let go of you. May it go to a place whose light doesn't reach your fingernails. Oh, I hope bad luck hog ties you. At least let it restrict your stride. I hope the shadows underfoot stumble you. I pray a snake grinds you in its mouth, not just bite, not just chew. May all animals turn against you. God, restrain my hands, intercede. My father is under my scarf if I don't beat you tonight. My father, underground for a generation, would never inhabit a hairline. I'm gonna beat you like I'm your mother. I've got something sharp under my tongue, some shard, black metal in both mouths. I'm fashioning a weapon. So I think I'll just do two more. As you can see, I'm very pressed lately. Things are way out of order. I find it personally humiliating, and I don't know how we can fully recover ourselves and how we'll answer for ourselves in the near future and in the far future and in other realms, but I believe in the people and believe that we're equipped to do so. And so I'll go back to the second book, Exiles of Eden, to finish out. This is Sympathy for Eve. Well, I guess I'm not really good at this sometimes, like talking about my work and contextualizing it, or treating things like an experience outside of the actual reading with y'all, but probably all of my poems are, they look like they're for people, but usually they're for landscapes and for realms and for the creatures and all of the things that are kind of dying away and escaping us while we're sometimes concerned with other things. And so you can find that a lot in Exiles of Eden, is that the people are in exile, but also the landscapes are losing themselves. And so you can think of it as, heartbreak in the time of climate change, longing at the end of the world. And so this is Sympathy for Eve. I wake with my right angle in my right hand, my right wrist in my left hand, a tender, one-sided crucifixion, pinning myself to sheets that seem wet. 5 a.m., always 5 a.m., and this time I think there are dozens of dead bees bundled in the sheets, their thoraxes and wings wet with what? Not even the air is moist. Not even my hairline, now that I've shaved my temples and nape so I won't feel a man's hands in that hair. The way he turned from me is so far outside my narrative, I decided to consider Eve. The weight of what she could sense but never witness, complete devastation, bees and all their companions, everything in the archive of earth, damp and beyond resurrection, her foresight, my only understanding for the total dread I feel against my aired longing, that there are not even bees, nothing but my belly against my thigh. I imagine Eve, her automatic credibility, her logic not yet accidental, no one to review evidence against her, no one to collect her papers, then read them generations later, saying she lied. She was kind and not exacting at all. She wrote dozens of letters to Satan asking after his heart under the pressure of his choices. I consider Eve and the first time Adam turned from her after some argument that certainly involved naming, valuing what it was for someone to spend a night truly lonely while not alone, his sleeping back to her and her saying, well, I have my own 2 arms and the faculty to catalog. Tonight is the first night one hand held tight the other. Or The first time Adam attempted to lead her down a path and she insisted it was a gorge, its bottom, water and snakes, and she sat right where she'd been standing until the sun set. By that time, she'd seen enough refusals to know how to sit on sediment. Or the first time her very eyes were a seasonal path, restricted by vines and branches hard to strip or snap, and her pupils said, "You may not enter until the ground has thawed." Adam paused and measured the snow at his feet. Or the first time she was in his arms, dizzy from too much sleep, and relaxed further into him, laid into him. We are not a biological imperative. We were joined by the impulse for story. So that's the last one. Thank y'all for being here. So I think, you'll see a lot in this book. Sometimes when we feel like we're at the end, it's a good time to revisit, the myths from the very beginning and from pre-beginnings. So this is Nsfw. I want us to get off before this screen sleeps. I want to make a video and play it on a loop, let it ruin someone's dinner. I want to tell you I had a nightmare about Oscar Grant's murder before it happened. I want you to believe me and turn me over and over, say this hole, this one, cover them all, fill my mouth so I stop tasting blood. I want to dream we're miniature people on a watermelon rind, rocking, rocking. I want to walk into a field at night, close our eyes and mouths so the searchlights can't find us. I want you to hold me in the grass and later point at the drowned ants, our hides raw from mosquito bites. I want you to recite your lineage. Let us make formal prayers for the names we forget, for the ones that history took. Let us pray from the heart for the blood they took from us. I want to give you my history of blood, of dirt, of police, of teachers, of social workers, then laugh with all our teeth showing. I want you to time travel and make cards and bracelets for the little girl who watched A Time to Kill and never healed. I want you to braid my hair and really mess up. I want you to braid my hair and make perfect parts. I want to preside over the new Pan-African Congress. Between sessions, daydream of my honeysuckle drying in your beard. I want to feel you with my hand or foot under the welcome table. I want you to bring me to incoherence. I want to keep you up and ride into levity. I want to sing, I get so weak in the knees, off key, my voice hoarse from screaming. I want to sing all breakdowns and know their meanings. I want us to get caught in one of Diana's closets in her silks and satins. I want to play our parents' records with eyes closed, smile and sway like Stevie. I want us to procreate ourselves, thereby knowing our folks, finally. I want us to stay home as the others build Babel or turn into rubble. I want to be Sheba revealing her ankles, ready to wade in water. I want to wade in mine. I want to go until our biology stops us. I want to almost go too far, then stop, since Obamacare isn't as comprehensive as he hoped. I want you to steal all my oil so you can smell like a shaman too. Let's wear linens and visit the pharaohs and scare people. I want you to croon Wyclef's 911 and let me rub your back and what shows when your pants are sagging. I want to hum, a change is gonna come with you in my mouth. I want you against the hot and breathing grill of a truck or cop car. I want you to cry falsetto tears if I start to leave you. Better run to me like the first 17 seconds of Donnie's A Song for You. I want you to take a beat for our parents' pain, then give them moody grandchildren. I want to wake looking like Edward Scissorhands shaped my afro. I want you to minister to me in the morning, pull us under the comforter so the neighbors and the walls and our devices can't hear, and call each other by our secret names. Gasp, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. It is an honor to be here. I'm very grateful that even though I was late, I was able to catch a little bit. It's funny, I was saying to someone, I just was on a 5-hour bus from Boston, and I said, I'm not really going for me. I'm really going because I just really need some poetry in my life, and then I missed it all, so. No, don't be sad, it's fine. You can laugh at that. Everything's okay. I don't have a lot of time, so I'll hop right into it. But first of all, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Cave Canem. This is very much, in many ways, in all the ways, my home. And right now, I'm a real long way from home. And it means everything, and it feels really good to be here. So I'll get into it. First things first, I would like to just call some of the ancestors in the room. I probably missed it. I'm sure we did that already. But if not, a couple of ancestors I'd like to call in: Representative Elijah Cummings, who passed last night, and Maya Angelou, our queen, our icon, who passed a couple weeks ago. And to that end, here's a poem that I guess in some ways is a lot about that. Title is Some Are Dead and Some Are Living, after Colleen McElroy, for Aiello. Thanksgiving 2012, I lay in your bed and stroke the egg of your cheek. Listen to you diagnose the wound, your pronouncements tired and weathered, the lamp of your eyes dotting away in the distance like you'd bit an alternate self and bled a color you'd rather stare into for the rest of your life. I wonder about the quixotic nature of a forced ending. I think about the inherent tragedy of cliffhangers. You tell me that you know everywhere you want to go and that it's everywhere and nowhere at all. Somewhere in a different universe, in a kitchen that I've wallpapered with my own hands, your fresh-baked rainbow cakes fall open at the slit, and you laugh that you laugh from the belly of your throat. And in this fantasy, you never died because we never bothered you with the provincial requirements of being alive. And in this fantasy, your joy, I see it, it's there in your alien grin, your agelessness, your maplessness, that happy crescendo in your sigh. I guess I'm saying life isn't everyone's final destination. Some of us are inherently extraterrestrial by formulaic design, the stars and their stuff entirely inadequate in the face of such an impossible occurrence. Some of us are meant to be visitors, just subletting bodies for the pleasure of it. Some of us are meant to stagger through eternity like evangelists of time. I'm selfish, and I should have heard you the first time. Please, Camonghne, just let me stay. Everything feels so fucking good up here. Hard poem, I guess. TJ suggests a source of new self-regard, suggests that I sit with my salts and wrap my wounds with what deserves my strangeness. I find it ugly, dispiriting to be so gullible, so out of control, like it's not my own body. I built this whole situation, framework after framework of deft needlework, silicone in the nest, my resistance a pink forest perverted with legs. I don't have any answers for this neurosis. I stroll into the sunlight and open my hands to whatever he offers. Make it easy to find me, so no wonder he finds me, spins a scroll out of me, asks a brick out of me. I'll always choose love over the absence of, will always choose a slow death in the mouth of my demon over a death alone.
because what else to offer ourselves to in this life? A rush towards calamity, a dust-settled ease? No, I choose a cold murder in the mouth of his aptitude. I choose my own catalytic patterning of flaws. A little bit of a longer poem, so stay with me. Tanya Harding's fur coats. The thing about being poor is that you spend your days pointing in quiet humor, noting every motherless origin, every gap in the moral fortitude of the wealthy. You know a coat is never just a coat, but dead and fresh animals stripped and bled, all affirmations of our curational pieties, our inhumanities bold and big-hearted by the casual pleasures of warmth. It's in the kill that we see how poverty precludes the conceit of envy. In the fog of my first tunneled spiral, I saw the drug of that magic, that blade in the shoulder of grace, that cold floor, a gallery of small stars. I learned the artifice of falling, and gravity is but a single tiny hand of compulsive insignificance. There I was, welled in tar and fat and committed to this violently brave sport, a girl unusual and generously unashamed, my face still freckled with the glee of bare-stripped winters, me and my ego pretending, bringing us down into a two-footed spill, Demeter and her crops in rot. What even am I except a perpetual resident of cold endings? The knee snaps, and that was that. But did you do it? Are you sorry? But did you do it? Are you sorry? The knee snaps, and that was that of cold endings. What even am I except a perpetual resident, Demeter and her crops in rot, bringing us down into a two-footed spill of bare-stripped winters, me and my ego pretending, my face still freckled with the glee of sport, a girl unusual and generously unashamed, committed to this, violently brave. There I was, welled in tar and fat and of compulsive insignificance, but a single tiny hand, and gravity is falling. I learned the artifice of that cold floor, that galley of small stars, that blade in the small shoulder of grace. I saw the drug of the magic in the fog of my first tunneled spiral, how poverty precludes the conceit of envy. It's in the kill that we see pleasures of warmth, our inhumanities bold and big-hearted by the casual, all affirmations of our curational pieties, animals stripped and bled, but dead and fresh is never just a coat. You know a coat of the wealthy, every gap in the moral fortitude, noting every motherless origin in quiet humor. The thing about being poor is that you spend your days pointing. All right, I'll do 2 more poems, and then we will have some wine and cheese and stuff. No shade, though. A faculty member thinks I am too involved in my own nostalgia. I say, what nostalgia? Oh, you mean Black nostalgia. If I can't recall the land of my umbilical severance, then there was no navel to begin with. When the memory finds the self tapered and running out of space, it goes around asking for its name and praying for the yes of a right answer. That's not nostalgia. That's a requiem. You assume that the source material of a collective bleed could only be a misunderstanding of placement. What do you mean? I know where I am. These are the Americas. It is 2019. I know my name and why I'm not dead. That is more than what you can say for you, because knowing is superior, is infinite. To think nostalgia is to want for something more beautiful than what sits dead at your table. What we'd share tomorrow has starved overnight. What we'd share tomorrow has already left its stink in the bed. And my last one, thank you all so much for being here. Such a pleasure, such a warm room. I'm gonna close out now. Yes, it is possible. For most of my life, I remained unaware of this, the way a wingless arm is unaware of the conceit of flight. But now I know that yes, it is possible to be allergic to a person. It is possible for the body to be wholly autonomous in how it chooses to preserve itself, no matter what fleshy, amorphous image of the heart the synapse might conjure, a great fire muted by holy water, a blue room with one pink knob, no matter what you think you want, it's the body that decides and will reject whatever antibodies revile its stasis, and in that case, the foreign cell was the Pisces fish, a twin fish, a two-fish flush, unvirtuous and writhing in deceit and steeped in the drama of belonging to too many lies. And yes, I had prayed that he'd finally come back to me, and that when he'd knock, he'd appear with one less life, but then he did appear, a xenophile on a tour of homes, and that would be our last encounter. All I could do was heave at the sight of him, head oscillating dizzily between two different men, two different lives, so Piscean in his world of Elysian highs, but this time, my systems nose down, anatomy buckling out into autopilot, bringing me down to my knees to purge, and it was like this for days. I couldn't stomach a morsel, my receptors stunted with the shock of an imminent shift. I wept and cocooned myself into a sweat until at once it stopped. And I woke to find myself at the kitchen table, perfectly unbothered, fingering cubes of fresh, wet aloe into my mouth, as if life itself were some benign victory I'd won. Thank you.
That was incredible. Can we just give another round of applause for all of our presenters tonight? Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you. Just as a last note, I want to thank you all again for coming out. Thank you to the new school. Thank you to our board of directors. Please sign up for our mailing list in the back, grab a brochure, a flyer, and buy books. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, everyone.